Yeah, because your knee hurts.
The wager.
It's still run.
Yeah, but Chase's knee doesn't hurt, so it won't hurt him to do what I asked.
Matthew, we know that your body's broken in so many ways.
Sure.
We're just trying to be gentle.
Yeah, have you seen that episode of SpongeBob?
Yeah, have you seen SpongeBob?
No, I have not.
The one with the X-ray where he like his entire broken.
Oh, yes.
Wait, is that
the one where he's like inside, he's like, this is Penny, this is Chip. And then he's like, I don't need air. I'm a water breather.
Absolutely no idea. I had no idea. So I just
Oh. Well,
I
that's
just remember that
Yes, those are gluten.
he
Oh,
like
I think so. Those ones okay on me.
I have my I know I
Wow, that song is amazing. I'm gonna stand over on this side because I was like,
I want to be in line.
not that much.
In heaven.
I'm sorry, God, I don't know what
Oldie
you're
but a goodie.
It's
An oldie but a
I'm more of a what if I stumbled guy.
That's a good one too. A little more
It is
moody.
so loud. Can I please open that door?
yeah, we can open the door.
I can.
if we turn off the AC unit, everything explodes.
Just put the chair in front of us.
Yes. Currently, the AC unit blows the breaker currently. So we'll see. If it gets too bad, we could try it, but there's a good chance that like
What if
everything
we
just
just
shuts
do a
down.
lesson outside?
Try what?
We could do that.
Yeah,
let's do that.
Like
Lesson outside. Not tonight though, because our stream is only set up in here.
Oh.
I wonder if the air would be
Maybe I'll see if I can get it to work.
Okay.
Place two
So
chairs.
tapes on the vent. If anybody doesn't know this, it's because like years and years ago, that vent rattles whenever air goes through it. It goes. But it'll rattle.
It rattles if you take the blue tape out.
Yeah. The blue tape is holding it from rattling.
It's a big rock.
No, the tape holds it from rattling.
But there's no earth. There's like keep it on the slides.
But I have no idea.
Keep it on the slides.
Well, I blame Luke.
I blame Luke.
Not my fault.
Down with Luke.
The tape.
Why?
Oh.
What happened with the...
Yeah, why?
What?
Why's
Yeah,
that
why?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness!
I know it rattles, but how does it rattle?
It's because it rattles, but the tape keeps it still so it doesn't rattle.
About the tape. And where's the tape?
Wow. Wait, Jake, can you repeat all that?
Thank you.
Wait, what are we talking about?
Who rattles?
Oh!
Good work, guys.
If
Only bear 30 minutes of
just put the chair in between the door and the thing.
Oh, okay. That works.
What's next? There's many things.
She knows.
There's one on the wall.
Why is that tape?
That's the thing we were just talking about.
Hey, Jake, why is that tape?
That's a great question.
It should keep the ghost.
Hey, Jake, who's tape?
What?
Who's tape?
I don't know. It sounds like a professional sportsman. Anyways, anybody hear that DeAndre Hopkins got suspended from the Cardinals?
Hey, it's because you had an injury, man.
Yeah, it's okay to cheat if you have an injury. I agree. Tonight we are going to be talking about one of my favorite Christians from history. His name they call him Brother Andrew. His name is Andrew, but I actually can't pronounce his last name because it's Dutch and it's like 5 words long because they have last names like that. But one of the reasons I want to talk about him is because he exemplifies what I think is a very important and the last commandment that Jesus gives us. Does anybody know what the last commandment that Jesus gives in the Gospels is? No, it is the Great Commission. The Great Commission. If you want to go, it is Matthew 28, 16 through 20. Okay? So, then the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain where Jesus had told them to go. When they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted. Then Jesus came to them and said, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age." So, I'm sure that most of you, or maybe some of you, have met a missionary at some point, right? Or met someone who's been on missions at some point. But when I was reading that, my question became, why don't all Christians do that? Like, why aren't we all going to all the nations if Jesus commanded it? And it's his last commandment. It's like, hey, I'm leaving. While I'm gone, go do this. And then we have 99% of Christians not doing it. Right? That's weird. Oh,
Question.
yes.
Are we talking everybody who claims to be a Christian or true Christians?
Okay.
Okay.
So, with that, I want you guys to think about this. Is it a requirement to being a Christian to do the Great Commission? Is it a requirement to go out to all the nations, as Jesus says, to go out to all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, of the Son, of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything that God has commanded? Is it a requirement? Okay. So, there's this guy, his name is Brother Andrew. I think he's really awesome because I think that his life exemplifies this passage better than almost anybody else that I know. And his life starts out really crappy. So he lives in the Netherlands. If anybody knows where the Netherlands is, I'm going to draw a really crappy map. This is Ireland, England, Spain, France, the Netherlands.
What's next to the Netherlands?
France, Germany,
Belgium.
Belgium, Luxembourg, Switzerland, Liechtenstein. Anyways, so
Hey,
Norway,
Jake.
Denmark.
Jake.
Okay, that's a great map. You're welcome. So,
Belgium is next to Netherlands hub.
thank you. Okay, so, anyways, he is from the Netherlands. And he's from the Netherlands. He is 13 in 1942. So we know what happens in 1942? The Netherlands gets invaded by Germany in World War II with Hitler telling the German armies to go in, and he's 13, too young to fight in the military. So, for his childhood, there's a famine, there's poverty, and then, while he's 13, like some of you guys are 13, an army invades his country in like 2 weeks and conquers it. Okay? So, after World War II, he's getting to be 17, 18 at the end of World War II, and he, full of patriotism, joins the Dutch military after World War II is already over, and he gets sent to Indonesia. You guys know where Indonesia is? It's down near China. It's some islands underneath China area, okay? And as he's sent down there to stop a rebellion of the Indonesian nation. And he's considered one of the most violent people of his part of the military. To the point where he was a sniper, and he would go and he would sneak into people he had sniped and leave a playing card on their dead bodies.
Andrew,
yeah.
That's
Straight up.
Just so people would know he would leave the 10 of spades everywhere, okay? And he was known by the enemy as one of the most brutal people. He wasn't a Christian. And then he ended up not getting shot, he ends up actually breaking his ankle. And he's stuck in Indonesia, not fighting, not doing anything for over a year. And the only thing he has is one of his childhood friends sends him a Bible. Okay? And he starts obsessively reading the Bible. He becomes a Christian. They can't fix his ankle in Indonesia. They send him back to Europe. Okay? When he gets to Europe, he decides that he is obsessed with the verses in the Bible we just read, the Great Commission. Right? He's been fighting people from different countries who speak different language for the last 3 years. And he now is of the opinion that he needs to go out to them. So he goes to this school in Scotland, in Glasgow. Is it Glasgow? Glasgow, yes. Anyways, so he goes to Glasgow, and he goes to this school. And this school is really crazy because they make him do something that the Great Commission exemplifies or says more than anywhere else, okay? So, I want you guys to think about the Great Commission in 3 parts. It has 2 commandments and 1 promise, okay? The 2 commandments are, therefore, go into all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So that's commandment 1. Okay, go into all the nations, baptize people. That means, disciple people, make them Christians, help them to find Christ. The second part is, and teach them to obey everything I have commanded you. So teach them to follow what Jesus has said, which includes the Great Commission, but all of the other things as well. That's the second part. And the promise is at the very end, and surely I am with you always, to the very end of the age. So, what he starts doing is as part of this Glasgow school, they have a bunch of school where they learn how to evangelize, and they send them through Scotland. They send them as a group through Scotland to evangelize, to hold meetings, to help people find Christ after World War II, right? So here's a question. What would be important things for traveling all around Scotland, evangelizing? What would you need? You need Bible, yeah? Helpful, yes. What would you need to go and do missionary work?
A master of the English language.
A master of the English language, which you would have had to learn a lot of English during that, yeah. You would need food. You would need, it's not an island. You would need money, right? You would need clothes, you would need transportation, a place to stay, all those things. So the one rule that they had while traveling around Scotland was they were not allowed to ask for money anywhere, and they were given $50.
That's awesome.
And they went around and they preached for over 6 months.
That's a lot of money.
And they were told, they were going from town to town. They were not allowed to ask for any money or they would fail the school. And they went around and they evangelized. And what happened was, in every town they stopped in, someone offered them a place to stay without them ever asking. People would bring them food without them ever asking. People would provide transportation without them ever asking. Okay? And this thing goes back to that very end. It's like, and surely Christ says he is with us to the very end of the age. He's with us always, right? This idea of putting our trust in God to do the things that we need, or to help us and provide for us the things that we need. Right? So, shift gears really quick. What do you think, I'm going to ask you guys to shout out, what could hold someone back from sharing their faith? JC?
Fear of rejection.
Fear of rejection? Okay.
Fear of, what's it called? Fear of judgment.
Fear of judgment? Okay. What else? What could stop someone from sharing the gospel?
Aggression.
Explain that.
Somebody being aggressive.
Yeah, they'd be worried about their safety. Okay.
Not enough knowledge in the Bible.
Feel like you don't know enough? Yeah. Anything else?
I'm not a good public speaker.
Not a good public speaker. Fair. Yes. People are scary. Yeah. Just in general, Emily.
It kind of goes with the rejection, but fear of not getting affirmation.
Yeah, fear of being an outcast in some ways, right? Yeah. Okay. So here's my thought on this, is that all of those things are answered by the same thing, which is, if God is with us always, we need to trust him to make sure that we are not going to be rejected when it matters, right? We need to trust him that what we will say will be good, right? That even if we don't have enough knowledge, we need to trust him to give us the words to say or give us the ideas to present. We need to trust him to keep us safe if we're afraid of aggression, right? We need to trust him to make sure that we have friends and a community, regardless of if we're preaching the gospel to people. Does that make sense? And I think that what happens in this is that he learned at the Glasgow school the ability, or learned the lesson of trusting in some little things, right? He's trusting in having money and food provided for him. Well, in fact, if he needed it, he could write a letter to his family who lives in the Netherlands, and they can come help him, right? He has a safety net. And what I think that shows us is it's okay to start with the littler things. It's okay to start with, you know what, I'm not going to ask anybody for money or food or shelter. Sounds like a big thing, but it's littler compared to what we're going to get to, okay? But starting out with trusting God, even think about this, he had never been to Scotland or to the British Isles at all before, trusting enough to move somewhere where he knew no one. He just showed up in the city. This is a part of the story. He showed up in the city and didn't even have a place to live while he went to the school in the first place. And he talked to some random stranger, and they're like, oh, I have an extra room, you can just have it. But being able to trust God to step out and practice that trust in smaller things. And for you, that might look like practicing with talking to other Christians about Christian stuff. Or it could look at talking with your friends about other moral things instead of preaching the gospel directly immediately, right? But practicing putting faith in God for things, right? So what he does is he graduates the school and he goes back to the Netherlands and someone gives him a car. Okay? They give him actually a really nice car. It's the richest people in town. They give him one of the original VW really nice cars. Okay? And they give him this car because he wants to go to Poland to go be a missionary there. Okay? And while he's planning this, just so you guys know what's going on, where will I put it? Green marker. So this is Germany, right? There's this little line there. Poland's like over here-ish, okay? There's this little line, and what this little line says is everything on this side were the countries that were allied with America, the UK, and France, and everyone on this side was basically controlled by Russia. Okay? And Russia didn't let people in very easily, and Russia really, really hated Christianity. They were communist, and they believed that Christianity was against the state, that in some way it was evil, it was going to stop people from being full in on communism. Okay? To give you an idea of what that looks like, how many of you guys know about Iran, right? If you went to Iran and you started teaching the gospel, you'd be shot.
Uh-oh.
In some ways, not in all of these places, but in a lot of these places, this is true. In a lot of Eastern Europe at the time. Okay? Not necessarily, but in a lot of the places. So, he needs to learn how to drive this car so he can get there and drive around Poland. But he's never driven a car before. It's like 1953. Almost no one has cars except for the very rich in Europe, right? It's right after World War II. Everyone's poor. And so he learns for over a month, he has to learn how to drive a car. And the rich people in town, the only people who have a car, and they teach him over a month where he's driving the car, where he's learning how